What's up, everyone? In our last video, we finished off when we took and added a CIFS share from our FreeNAS server to our Proxmox server. In this video, we're going to take that share and utilize it as the virtual hard drive for our containers and VMs. We're going to follow that up by utilizing the second port on my 10 gig NIC and make it a backup to the primary port by bonding them. And then we're going to finish it off by adding a cache drive to the local ZFS pool that we made on the Proxmox system. So let's get started. All right, one thing I neglected to show you in the last video was when we created the CIFS share, we chose to use it for templates, for containers, VMs, and we also chose to use it for the VM and container hard drives. And on that share, it created a couple files for our directories for us, files for us. One of them was this dump, which is your backups. That's where the backups are going to be stored. And you have your images, which is where your container images are going to be stored at. Oops, sorry. Important stuffs and things that wasn't added. That's something I have on there. iocharset, which that is actually for the FreeNAS. Sorry about that. And then they created a private directory and a templates directory, which is where all of your ISOs and things are stored at. So don't be surprised if you see these files just pop up out of nowhere after you create the connection between the two. So let's get started with creating a VM utilizing that CIFS share. So we'll go to create VM. You can number it whatever you want. I'm just going to name it as test, and we're going to click next. It's going to ask for your ISO image. We'll just pick, sure, let's pick 20.04 Ubuntu. We're going to click next, system. We're going to click next on that. Now, this is where I ran into a little trouble. The one thing, if you leave it on this image format, once you start the installation of the operating system for this virtual machine, eventually it's going to get to the point where it's going to start to partition and format your virtual hard drive, and that's where it will just all go to heck. It'll crash out and it won't let you go any farther than that. So we're going to change it to VMware image format. Imagine that. And we're going to choose that. We'll click next. Give it however many sockets, however many cores you want. I'm going to crank it up just to speed up the installation process. 2 gig of RAM is enough. We're going to leave that alone, and let's start after creation. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to install the operating system, go through the steps, but I'm going to fast forward through that part. So, all right, while we're waiting for this to reboot, I kind of want to point something out. To minimize this, let's bring our share back up, and if we go into the images directory, you'll see that it has a 100. This is the number that pertains to the VM number here. And some of you might think that, okay, so we just created this VM and used the share as the virtual hard drive, and you should have access to all the directories that are on that share. Well, that's not the case. Basically, what you have is, let's say this is the share. This is our CIFS share, and on that share there's a Plex directory, and there's a backup directory, and whatever else is on there. So when we create our little virtual hard drive, what it basically does is it takes and boxes out a chunk of the storage that's open, and it creates our VM, not VB, VM, and it can't see those directories. So what we're going to do once this machine actually gets done rebooting, we are going to show you how to access those directories, but it's not necessarily, it's not a Plex thing, it's a operating system thing as far as in Ubuntu or Debian. So we're going to run through that. If you ended up making a Windows VM, all you have to do is map a hard drive, and it's the same thing. So let's wait another, I don't know, 4 hours. It's taking forever, and we will show you how to do that. All right, the VM is finally created and up to date and everything. I've logged into it, and I want to do a little copy and paste here and create a mount point. But the first thing I need to do is find out what my IP address is for this VM. So let's do an if config. Oh, we need to install the net tools. Apt install net, whoops, dash tools. We only need one L or two L's there. And there we go. Okay, let's try that if config command again. And you can see right here, there is our IP address for this VM. So I'm going to use PuTTY to jump into it. So it's 172. So let's go ahead and start PuTTY up. It is 192.168.1.172. We'll click enter. Going to give us a little warning because we haven't logged into this server yet. Let's make this text a little bigger so you can see it. All right, let's log in. And if we do an ls, you'll see it's not going to show anything from the share. If we do a cd and let's go into the mount point and do an ls, and you'll see there's nothing connected there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do a little copy and pasting here, and we are going to edit the fstab file. And we actually need to do sudo enter, and we're going to go all the way down to the bottom here. See if we can stretch this guy out. And we are going to add a line to it. And what we have here is, the first thing we have is our IP address, the share, and where we are going to mount it up at, username, password, and do a Ctrl X, save it. Let's do a sudo mount -a, hit enter, and then let's cd into our mount directory, do an ls, and now we have access to everything that's on that share. So good to go with that. Now, one thing that might happen is if you shut the VM down and start it back up, it might not reconnect the share. And if that happens, what you want to do is you want to create this file right here, and it's going to have to be sudo. So let's do a sudo, and you're going to add this information right here. You're just making a bash file so that when the VM starts up, it's automatically going to run this mount a. Control X, yes, save it, and then we're going to make it an executable file with this line right here. Hit enter, and the permission has changed. It's now an executable file. Well, we got to get a sudo on there, bud. And now it worked. So now if we restart the machine, that mount should be there still. So let's do a sudo reboot. We'll lose connection, but once it gets back up and running, we'll just, well, let's just get out of PuTTY. All right, let's log in. Let's cd into the mount directory, do an ls, and bam, everything's there. You have access to everything. So that takes care of setting a VM up on the share and then connecting the share to the operating system for that VM. So let's go ahead and let's create a container now. And the only reason we're going to run through this is because I had a couple issues with it also. So we're going to do test one, give it a password, verify the password. We are going to make it a privileged container, and we'll just use Ubuntu, and we want to use tank. 8 gigabytes is fine. Let's give it a few more cores just to speed it up. 512 on the RAM is fine. Network, let's just do DHCP. DNS, leave it as is. Confirm, and let's go ahead and start it once it finishes creating. And I'm going to tell you, it's probably not going to start. We'll bring this tab up here. You can see it's trying to start, and bam, it errored out. Not sure why it's doing that. So what I did was, probably like everybody else does, I went out and I got on the Googles and did a little bit of searching, and what I found was this page right here. I'll have a link to it in the description, and you can read all the information if you want, but the two lines we're interested in is this one and this one right here. So I'm going to copy this, and we're going to go to the shell of the actual node, and we're going to paste that guy in, and it's going to disconnect the CIFS share that we have created. We're going to go back and we're going to run this guy right here, and it's going to reconnect that share. So now if we go to test one, we click on start. All right, it took a little while to get started, but it did start. So let's go ahead and jump into it, and let's go ahead and connect that tank share to this guy also. So let's go ahead and shut this guy down. Once it's done shutting down completely, let's go all the way down to options, features, click on edit, and we want to add a CIFS share. Click OK, start it back up. All right, now that it's started back up, I've already logged in, and we're going to do basically the same thing we did with the VM, and we are going to edit the fstab file. So nano /etc/fstab, hit enter, scroll down, and we're going to add the same line. Control X, yes, save it. Let's do a mount -a, not 1A, and let's cd into the mnt. Let's do an ls, and bam, everything's there. So now you're set up with a mount point back to the CFS drive to give you access to everything that's on there. So one thing I want to point out about using your CFS drive or your NTS drive, or whichever, however you want to use an external hard drive as your virtual machine or container hard drive, is that it's quite a bit slower than actually accessing or having the virtual hard drives on the local Proxmox hard drive. So I'm going to do it that way. I'm not going to use the CFS, but I'm going to leave everything connected so I have access to it for those VMs. So with that done, the next thing I want to do in my little setup is I'm going to set up the second port on the 10 gig card as a backup. So what we're going to do is, right now we have a VMBR0 bridge. We're going to edit it, and we're going to remove the bridge ports, and we're going to hit OK. So now don't hit apply right here, because if you hit apply, it's going to apply those changes and you're not going to have access to your server anymore. So instead of hitting apply, we're going to hit create. We're going to create a Linux bond, and we are going to tell it the slaves, which are your two ports that you want to connect up. So for me, it's these two guys right there, EMP4 01 and 02. So the way we're going to do that is we're just going to type it in, EMP4S0F0 and EMP4S0F1. We want to change this to our active backup, so that if our primary, which our primary is going to be EMP4S0F0, double check, make sure we got everything right. So if our primary goes out, it's going to kick over to the F1 as our backup. So let's go ahead and click create. It's going to create that, and then we're going to go back to our bridge and we're going to edit it again. And in our bridge port, where we had it as the EMP4SOF01, we're going to change that, and we're going to change it to bond 0. Click OK, and we're going to click apply. All right, it's done now. It's got bond 0 as its access point right here, and bond 0 has a pair of ports to utilize in case the primary goes down. It'll pick up the secondary. So job done on that. All right. One more thing I want to do is I want to add a cache drive to my ZFS pool that I created, the local ZFS pool on the Proxmox server. And this one actually has to all be done from the command line. So we're going to go into the low res shell, the nodes shell, and we are first going to start off with z pool status, and it's going to show you it right here. So what we have right here is the name. Oops, wrong arrow, guys. Sorry. Right there's the name of our pool, and then right here, these are the 4 hard drives that pool is made up of. So I want to add a cache drive to that, which I'm going to use the SSD that I put in the optical drive that I replaced the optical drive with. And you can check this video out. It'll show you how to do that or how I did that. And what I'm going to do is jump over to this directory. We're going to cd into the dev/disk/by ID. We're going to do an ls, and it's going to tell us all the disks that are on there. Here's part of the ZFS pool that we created. This is a USB drive that I have sitting in the front of the server right now. Here is all the disks for that pool. And right here, this ATA Kingston drive, which has 1 through 9 partitions on it, is what I want to use as the cache drive. But it's already been used. We'll go ahead and try it to see. Actually, no, we're going to go and we're going to do a G disk. So let's actually paste that guy in there. G disk, go back up and copy the drive that we want to edit. And we're going to hit enter. And we're going to hit the question mark for help to see what our options are. And I want to delete any partitions that's on that drive right now. So we're going to hit D, and it's going to ask for partition 1 through 9. So let's start off with 1, and let's do it again. And we're going to go with 9. And let's do it again, and it shouldn't have an option. Yeah, we deleted all the partitions. So the next thing we want to do is we want to add a new partition, which is N. So we're going to hit N. We're going to go with the default of 1, and we're just going to click enter and default through all these guys because it's perfectly fine. And then we want to hit W to save our changes. Yes, we want to save those changes. So let's do a CD and get back out into the main directory. And if we do an LSBLK, hit enter, and you're going to see it's just another way of seeing all the hard drives. Again, all of these are what are used for our ZFS pool, SDB through F, and then the SDA is our SSD that we're going to use for the cache drive. But actually we're going to use the SDA1 because that's the partition we made and that we want to use. And the way we're going to do that is we are going to use, where is it at? This command right here. zpool add rpool. Rpool is the name of our ZFS pool that we created. Cache-f and then dev/sda1. We hit enter. It's going to give us this error right now because I've already done it, but I forgot to hit unmute the mic again, if you can believe that. So once you run that command, it should just come up with the root at low res. And then if you do a zpool status like this right here, you will see that right here, there's your cache drive, and it's connected to your rpool1. And that job is done now. So hopefully this will help speed things up a little bit. And the last thing I want to do is I want to set backups up for all my VMs and containers that I create. And the way I'm going to do that is we're going to go into Data Center, Backups. Let's click on Add. I want it to be on Tank because I want it to be on a separate machine from the Proxmox machine. I want it to happen on Sunday, not Saturday. You can pick whichever day you want. Midnight's fine by me. I want to click on this, and I want to hit all because I want it to get all the VMs and all the containers. Now I suggest you go ahead and add an email address and change the email notification from always to on fail only, because you really don't care if it actually succeeds. Hey, whoop-de-doo, it did what it was supposed to do. But if it fails, then it's going to send you an email and let you know, hey, there's a problem here, you might want to check it out. So then you click create. It creates the backup for you. Now on Sunday at midnight, it's going to create that backup. All right, so that's the end of our Proxmox 7 install and setup part 2. Hopefully you found this useful. Hopefully you can use some of this information, and hopefully I didn't scramble it up too much and make it difficult to understand. But like I said, if you like this kind of content, do me a favor, go down and karate chop the like button and roundhouse kick the subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.